Everybody, welcome to Unfiltered and Unapologetic with Pick and Stein, and a special guest today.
A lifelong friend, man. We went to a bunch of Falcons games together growing up. Our dads are really good friends, so we've known each other for a long time. But he was a former Marine, essentially just all around badass, and we love to have him on the
I don't know about all
podcast.
that. Appreciate it though.
And he's huge, Stein. He could probably bench double what you're benching these days. So
I don't doubt.
Yeah, it's been a while though. I'm trying to get myself back into it. You know, you get lazy when you know it's not your job to work out anymore. So I got to force myself to do it.
yeah,
Dude, I was actually really well. I don't know if Pick told you, we had like during quarantine, we had a little pull-up, push-up like contest where we kept trying to one-up each other, and I was curious. You know, that's like your probably bread and butter in the Marines. How many you could do back in your prime?
Oh shit! I mean, yeah, pull-ups are going to be your main, you know, test of strength. I guess we had the physical fitness test, so it's you got to do for a perfect score. You got to do 20 pull-ups, 100 sit-ups in 2 minutes, and then a 3-mile run in 18 minutes, which sucks. So yeah, I could do like I did about 30, I think, 30 pull-ups. So.
nice.
Yeah, and then I get to the run and I run about 21-minute 3 miles. So I made it all evened itself out.
We were doing it was me, Stein, and another one of our buddies. We were just rotating through the three of us. How many push-ups and pull-ups you do throughout the whole day? So I do it for 30 minutes, knock out however many, come back a couple hours later, knock out some more push-ups, pull-ups, and I'd keep track of them in a little book, and we'd just keep one-upping each other either by 20 in each category every time or just barely beating each other. But we did that for, I mean, it was only for probably a month we did it, but it was fun. I felt like because all the gyms were closed and it sucked. There was nothing else to do.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have something, and I feel like competition is always going to be the best way to push yourself. You know, it's hard to keep yourself going. You know, self-motivation, working out by yourself. I still mainly have been doing that. You know, just working out alone, but I got a buddy that works out with me every now and then. But it's just definitely helps to have somebody trying to one up you.
Definitely. Stein was always trying to chase me in the gym, so he was always trying to bench as much as me. Isn't that right, Stein?
Bench more than you one time when you got sick and we worked out, and it was like your first day back. We up 225 4 or 5 times, like maybe 4 times, which was like a record for me. I've been working out while you were in a hospital. I was using that advantage that time to get ahead of you.
And you got to.
I'm not lifting today, and like you didn't want it because I think I might have actually beaten you that day. I'm not saying I would have lasted that whole time, but we'll never know now because you didn't bench.
That's true. I'll give you that.
Pick it.
Let's talk about.
Yeah, where do we want to start? I feel like I want to start with Connor, honestly, and talk about his.
Right.
I want to talk about his experience. So how long were you in the Marines?
So I'll start out. I did a couple years in college. I was an ATO as well, and did college for a while. Lived in the house. I lived in the fraternity house for way too long. I was only there for the military in the first place. You have to go to college to be an officer in the military. So that was like kind of what I had grown up looking at. My dad's an officer, obviously. So I want to do that. And then 2 years into college, I'm like, man, I don't like school. So I ended up just enlisting in the Marine Corps. That was 2012. So also, the war in Afghanistan was kind of winding down. I was like, man, I'm going to miss it if I don't go now. So I went in for 5 years. It's a good experience. Did a couple deployments, peacetime deployments at first. I was an infantry guy. I was a machine gunner. Eventually made sergeant and had a section of about 20 dudes, machine gunner section. And then, we did those 2 deployments, and then I got lucky and got put on an advisor team that was going to Iraq in late 2016. So I got to do that. That was a really good experience. Pretty much the height of, ISIS running through that country. So we got to go over there. It was pretty cool. So then after that deployment, I was on my way out. So that was about 5 years.
So were you ever in like an active gunfight? I don't know if you could really talk about it, and I don't want to know about specifics, but
it was the combat was like it was a combat zone. We had a few instances where, we were outside the wire, rolling to Haditha, going to Ramadi, all these different places that were supposedly, cleared, because the Iraqi army is the one who's taken this fight now, or was at the time. We're primarily, our main role is advise and assist. So my job was, I am a machine gunner, so it's a combat role. I was there as pretty much like a bodyguard for our colonel, who had these big high level meetings with, generals in the Iraqi army and stuff like that. So we did have some instances. They attacked the base a couple times. I was sleeping in my rack and had a fucking, bomb hit about 200 yards away. And that's, it's, a little close, but other than that, it's a couple instances where we got in some hairy situations, but mainly just the IED threat. So that's kind of how they fight so much differently now, because they know that we're going to crush them every time in a conventional gunfight. So they operate from afar. They do the IEDs, and they, but like I said, Iraqi army, would go through first, clear the areas we were going through, and then we would roll through after.
Yeah, because you guys, would you do any training with the Iraqi army?
Yeah, so that was our main mission, was advise and assist. So we'd, advise is the part where that my colonel was going out and advising, strategy with the high level officers in the army. And then our guys, we had a SEAL team with us. Their job was to, we work with them a little bit too. Aside from their combat role, their job was to, solely just train these Jundi, they call them the enlisted soldiers, basic combat tactics, shooting, physical fitness, whatever it is. You should see these motherfuckers do jumping jacks. It's crazy. Just teaching them that. It's just the very basics. So yeah, we did a lot of that, a lot of training.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I've seen like Jocko's podcast and stuff like that. He talks about Ramadi a lot and fighting alongside the Iraqis, and how can't always necessarily trust them and all the things that teach them and stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
That's a big point. Is like, you can't trust them. I mean, like, they're about 90% of them love us, and I was learning Arabic. I would have conversations with them, and I would consider them friends at the time. They're very friendly people. Most of them are good people, but you never know. So it's they're not proficient at their job. So we go through these areas that are cleared, supposedly cleared, but we still got our own EOD guys. We got our guys clearing as well.
So can you talk about your dad real quick as well? I know that he's been serving for a long time, and obviously I don't want to say anything other further than what I should say, so I'll let you talk about him real quick, and then I want to ask you some other questions about.
Okay. I mean, he started same way I did. Went in. Well, he was a reservist first, enlisted. Was a machine gunner as well at when he was at West Georgia with your dad in the fraternity. They did, once a month in the reserves, you go train, and then he made his way up and became an officer, went active duty, and then from there was an infantry officer for going on 34 years, but has a ton of combat experience. I mean, he's a very confident guy, so he'll be the first to tell you, he's got more combat experience than anybody in the Marine Corps, and that's just kind of a fact. He's done. I remember when we were growing up, him going 6 different times between 2003 and when I left high school, so 2009, I guess. So he's he'd do 6 months, pretty much half the year over there, come home half the year and train, get ready to go to the next one. So it's just, back then it was over and over again.
And now he's strictly pretty much just overseas troops, or what?
Yeah, I mean, he's in a role now where he oversees the actual logistics of running that base itself. So almost like a mayor or somebody that is oversees a city, and then you have like a division commander that oversees the troops within that. So he's getting out next year and moving back home. So he's nice. Done after 35.
Wow, yeah. I didn't know that, but wow, good for him. Forgive me if I ask something stupid too, honestly, because I just don't know that much about the armed forces. But Stein, you got anything you want to ask real quick before I keep asking questions, or what?
Yeah, and that's super interesting. I didn't realize all that. So the question I wanted to ask
I'm ready.
Was Well, I wanted to get a quick reaction on this clip, and I'll just play it right now.
What do you want in a fucking fox?
Hold on. You can hear that, right?
Yeah,
I already know it.
You're in a foxhole. What do you want in a fucking foxhole with you, Brian? You want some mealy mouth cunt, politically correct asshole? Or you want somebody that's gonna rip their head off and shit down their neck? Trump's that kind of guy.
I was just curious to get a military perspective on someone that you've seen action and this political show. What your thoughts are on that? Because I think you can relate to that pretty well.
Yeah, you want somebody who's going to get down in the trenches with you. You want a guy. I mean, if you go and get to the lower levels of a Marine Corps infantry unit, a grunt unit. Marines are all Marines, right? That's what they say. Every Marine's a rifleman, all that stuff. But it is different when you go into from the jobs where it's not a combat role to the guys that's what they do. Their job, I mean, plain and simple, is to kill people. I mean, that's what we're there for. So it's a dark humor. You should hear some of the things the guys will say, just joking around. And, you got to be, everyone's trying to be the top dog, everyone's trying to out alpha everybody. I mean, it's that type of environment. So you got to have some thick skin, and you got to be willing to get down with your guys and get dirty. And that's perfectly put as far as, it translates to Trump and the presidency.
Yeah. So would you say that the general consensus amongst people in the armed services, Marines and everything, are they Trump supporters, not Trump supporters? I would assume they're Trump supporters, but I don't know.
Yeah, Trump. I mean, yeah, if you ask 90, I bet 90%. I don't know the number, but like I said, before we aired, like, you can't outwardly state your political stance as an active duty military service member.
I was just saying, I saw a clip that there was a Trump flag on a Humvee. Maybe this was in like 2016 after he won or something like that. I think those guys got in trouble a little bit because I know, you're not allowed to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it depends on who sees it, but like I said, you can't put Trump signs in your yard when you live on base. You can't outwardly. I don't even think you can put it on social media. Yeah, if you're active duty, you're just not supposed to. But if you ask 90% of service members personally, they're going to tell you Trump because they love this country. I mean, that's just the clear choice. They want to serve the country. A lot of if you go and ask those 10% that might be the liberal, liberal followers, they're probably in it for the benefits. They're probably, which is nothing wrong with that. They go and they get their free school and their VA home loan and all that. I mean, the benefits are pretty good just for doing 4 years in the military. So you have some of those, but yeah, so 90% for sure.
They're leeching off the system.
See, I don't want to say all that, but
money.
Oh yeah, I mean, they are still serving, so that's good. But yeah, I mean, there are some people that they do it solely for the benefits.
Yeah, I'm not knocking anybody. I respect anybody that goes and serves, and I'm just joking around. But
yeah, I know. Like, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, there are a lot of benefits, like you said, to serving your 4 years and getting out, and I think people do know that. So,
right.
I'm not saying that there's got to be people that just take advantage of the system, and shame on them. Yeah. But they are serving
with any other system.
Exactly.
Right.
Stein,
what is the benefit of after 4 years? Because I always was curious how that works. So 4 years, that's considered your contract. You do 4 year increments.
Yeah. So I think it works the same as officers too. But yeah, you sign a 4 year enlistment. Sometimes you can do 6. It just depends on the contract. But generally it's a 4. I did 5 because I ended up extending for that deployment to Iraq. I was supposed to get out like right before that was leaving, and then I was like, no, I want to go. So I did 5, but usually people do 4. And then when you get out, as long as you have the honorable discharge, which is, it's hard not to get, I mean, you get the GI Bill, so you get free school. They pay you to go to school. They pay you BAH, which is basic allowance for housing. So, and here in Atlanta, I was going to Georgia State. I think it was $1,800 a month for my rent, which is well above what I was paying for a 1-bedroom apartment in Brookhaven.
Sure.
You get the VA home loan, no money down on a home loan. I mean, you get access to the VA if you're a combat veteran. So I got, VA access. Isn't as bad as everybody seems to make it. It's not that bad. I know maybe that's just my experience, at the one here in Atlanta, but it's better than nothing. So you get that. So, I mean, I know there's a ton more, but off the top of my head, those are the big 3.
So what about like I read recently the Operator, Robert O'Neill's book, and he talks about like he's the guy that shot Osama bin Laden. He was the Navy SEAL. He left early, like before. I guess I don't know if you're a SEAL. Like it seemed like he was supposed to serve like 20 years or like a really long period of time, and he was in the military for a while, but he left early and he didn't get like pension benefits. Like what? How does that work exactly?
So I think when you get 20 years, I'm sure he was on the same system. He re-ups every 4 years, just like everybody else. So after 4 years, I had the opportunity to sign for 4 more. I didn't. I'd end up choosing to get out. And every 4 years it comes up, you have to re-enlist. You have to do a re-enlistment ceremony and sign the papers and everything. I think he got out just short of 20, like did 16 and didn't re-enlist to get the 20. But once you hit 20 years, you get that pension. So that's your retirement. I think it's 50%. Of your base pay when at the time of your retirement. I'm pretty sure it's 50%. Somebody like my dad, he's done, his 30 years, I think it goes up to 80 or something like that. It increases as you put more years in.
I wanted to go back real quick because you said earlier that it's really hard to get dishonorably discharged, unless I guess your name is Hunter Biden, right? Because didn't he get dishonorably discharged?
Correct. Good segue. Good segue.
Do you know what he did? Because honestly, I don't know. But
I think he got popped for cocaine. I'm pretty sure.
Wow, classic.
Yeah, he failed it, which is hard to do, right? Because cocaine stays in your system 3 days.
Yeah.
So all you had to do is just keep it clean for the. You usually know when you have a test coming up.
I was gonna say, is it like athletes because at the Georgia, I'm not saying for a fact I know it's 100%, but I'm 99% sure that most of those players smoke weed. So they pretty much let the players know way beforehand, like, hey, you got a drug test coming up, you got a drug test coming up, you got a drug test coming up, and then they know.
Yeah, sometimes
they're not doing anything for that couple weeks so that they can all pass. So is that kind of the same thing, or? Right.
Yeah. So, sometimes you have those where they're announced because they don't want to deal with the headache of having to process somebody out of the Marine Corps, the military. It sucks. So but then other times they will have those surprise, like 50% of the unit has to go take a piss test. So you never really know if your name's going to be on the list. It seems so simple to me not to go out and get high or whatever, because I enjoy being a Marine, and I knew that the risk of getting the dishonorable discharge was so. I mean, it ruins the rest of your life pretty much. It's like having a felony on your record.
Wow.
But yeah, it's very hard to get a dishonorable discharge. You have to really fuck up.
So would you say, this is kind of related, I think you talked about ISIS earlier, that we've pretty much wiped out ISIS since Trump's taken over. What is your stance on Iraq and kind of what's going on in the Middle East right now and where it was when you were there?
When I was over there, I got there when it was in late 2016. So we got there in December, and the team that we replaced had been there. It was a 9-month deployment. So they'd been there for 9 months. They didn't leave the wire, which means you leave the safety of your own base and go out into a combat zone. Pretty much they didn't leave the wire a single time. So they did no forward advise and assist missions. There was there was a lot less face-to-face, which matters with the Iraqis. They would have to come to us to hold these meetings, and it just shows, I think we're showing them respect by like taking the risk to go out and talk with them on their own turf. You know what I mean? So I think that's a huge part of that advise and assist mission. So when I got there, they had not gone out once. Trump was elected and then inaugurated in January, and I remember the following week after he was inaugurated, we were in trucks rolling out to Haditha with 50 cals on the top of them, doing real missions. Going out. It was the following week, and that just showed his. It was too much of a coincidence for it not to be something to do with coming into office. Because he had such an aggressive approach to these foreign policy situations. His posture in the Middle East is complete opposite of what Obama, Biden were doing when they were in office. And I think that's what's fostered a lot of these peace deals that have come into play in the last couple of months. I mean, just us being in the position, having leverage and deterrence, and not just trying to play nice with Iran and paying off the Ayatollah. You can't fucking do that. So he's in a position of leverage and deterrence now, where he can do what he wants. You know what I mean? And he's, you know, he crushed ISIS, and as well as trying to get us out of Afghanistan. We've been in a 20-year war in Afghanistan, you know, but it's time to move on at some point.
Yeah,
you can't just stay there forever. You got to stay there in small capacity, but not troops on the ground forever.
It's funny to me because you see the ESPN, that was retarded. You see the CNN reports on.
They're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. But you see when we declare war, they go, "Oh my God!" If it's a Republican presidency, they'll go, "Oh my God, this is the worst war ever." They oppose it, and then when Trump gets in, he starts withdrawing troops. They go, "Oh, whoa! Is it too soon to withdraw troops?" And it feels like they never have a legitimate stance on anything. They just want to take the opposite side of whoever the Republican presidency is, regardless of what they actually truly believe.
Yeah, they have no stance on anything. They just they live in, you know, they talk in vague analogies when Biden is discussing his plans. It's always a plan for a plan for a plan. You never know what the plan is. You know what I mean? It's always just talk. They just oppose whatever he says. But if you want to go back
Biden his whole entire life. That's Biden his whole entire life.
Right.
He has never once been proactive. Not once has he ever come out and had a stance before. Well, he comes out and has a little bit of a stance, but then whenever something happens, he goes, "Oh, well, I would have never done that." And he always acts like he would have made the right decision. And that's especially true during this whole coronavirus thing, because he literally, the whole thing with him saying beforehand he wouldn't have banned China travel and all that stuff. It's funny because then he comes out and goes, "Oh, well, we didn't do it soon enough." Well, why don't you have an original thought yourself and then take a stance before all these things happen instead of afterwards being like, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that."
Yeah. I mean, I think most of everything that he said has been the same thing Trump's been doing. It's like there's not much of a difference from what it's already been doing. You know, he already put in place these restrictions and mandates and whatever, just because we had no idea what this thing was. Now Biden's kind of playing Monday morning quarterback, and he's like, "Well, I would have." You know, a lot of the things he says are pretty much what has already happened.
Is it fair to say that Trump it's very America first and pretty much strengthening our military? And if Biden gets elected, that might not be the case. Are there concerns within the military if Biden does get elected?
Yeah, I mean, our stance across the world would be much weaker. Our posture would be much weaker. He just has a weaker like presence about him, like him as a person. You know what I mean? So I don't think he'll play well on the world stage with Putin and the Ayatollah in Iran and North Korea and China. You know, I know China is a huge deal, right? I mean, I just don't think he's going to have that same posture that Trump does. And yeah, Trump's done a ton for our military. You know, he's spent a lot of money on them. Mm-hmm. Like I said, he defeated ISIS. I mean, he completely defeated ISIS, these peace deals. And now he's finally going to try to do the right thing and get us out of this war in Afghanistan the right way. Like it's a process to get to withdraw from these places. You can't just up and leave. If you remember back in 2013, Obama did it with Iraq. He just got up, he just pulled us out, and cold turkey, we're gone.
And vacuum.
You saw, correct. Yeah, you saw what happened. It was a power vacuum, and the Islamic State followed soon after that. So you have all these different factions fighting for power in this country where we took out their head leader, and you know and then we just pull out of nowhere. It creates this vacuum, and it's a disaster. So there is a process.
Is there ever a thought that goes into your head? You know, you think, at what point do we stop? You know, at what point is it not our responsibility as Americans to go into these other countries and pretty much, you know, hopefully have peace there? But do you ever think, at what point do we not go there? Are we overstepping our boundaries? Are these countries, do they just need to fight it out themselves?
I think we're well past that point. I think we were past that point 10 years ago, probably. We went in 2001, right? 9/11. And I'm talking about Afghanistan specifically, because they were harboring terrorists that, you know, did harm to us. So that was a direct attack on our people. So mm-hmm. It was a good reason to go in and start weeding these guys out and killing bad guys. And then we started prolonging this thing and staying in this country and trying to instill democracy in a tribal place that they don't want it. They'll never be receptive to that idea of instilling our values and our way of life over there. It's just not going to happen if you talk to anybody over there. And so we got caught up in this fight against the Taliban, who are the enemy. But at some point, you have to kind of just let them fight themselves. We can train the ANA, Afghan National Army, and the ANP, the police, on how to best fight these guys. But it's their fight at this point, and I think that Trump knows that, and that's why he's in the process of withdrawing. I mean, we've gone down. I think we got like 5,000 troops there now, from 10,000 back when he came into office.
Love to hear that you confirmed what we all knew was the case, that Trump completely wiped out ISIS, which is why I haven't heard of ISIS once on any of the debates. It's like they're no longer a threat.
Right. You won't hear about it in the mainstream news. Even if you try to look it up on Google and try to find articles about ISIS, there's not much out there, because it's not a big deal anymore. Iraq is a much better place now than it was 4 years ago. That's for sure.
So as a combat veteran and the son of a general, what is your thinking towards China? I know you mentioned China briefly earlier as the next, global threat. Maybe it's not the same type of combat. It's more of technological warfare, whatever we're seeing with the China virus, pathological warfare, some would say. What are your thoughts? You're privy to information that most people probably aren't privy to. So what thoughts can you share regarding that?
I have a little bit of information that some people wouldn't, but it's not much. I'm still, a lower level guy in the military. I wasn't, too high up, but I do a lot of research on it, and I do hear things from my job as a contractor. That was where I gained most of my experience after the military. But yeah, they're a huge threat. They're a rising power. The geopolitical war, South China Sea, that whole deal. I think that was during Obama's presidency. They're always kind of tinkering and seeing how far they can push the limits with us. You know what I'm saying? With different things, whether it's finance, technology, this geopolitical stuff. Like, there's always just trying to push the limits and see how far they can go. They've been taking advantage of us for a long time, and I think that's we got the guy in office right now doing the best job. Yeah, and it will be a different war. I can't imagine going and having an actual conventional combat, conventional force on conventional force war with China. I mean, it would be a bloodbath. Yeah. It would be terrible. So I don't think anyone wants that.
So what are your thoughts on the Space Force?
I honestly don't know much about it. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, it's innovative. He's obviously, as time goes on, we need to keep exploring things that we haven't explored before. And Space Force seems like a good way to do that. It's still, we're still competing on the national stage in that regard, as well as how far can we push technology up there? So I think it's a great idea. I just don't know much about it. I don't know how far it's come at all. So
I know you said keep pushing technologies. Back when the Cold War was going on, do you think that we faked the moon landing or what? Because I think we did. We did.
I don't know.
You think we didn't land on the moon?
It'd be pretty.
Dude, yes. I think there's no way we landed on the moon back in 1969. There's no way.
It seems crazy back for that time period, for sure.
Yeah, and you're not going to convince me that they were able to, from the moon, broadcast to every single American's television set in their living room, Stein.
So
in 1969.
So your biggest issue.
Computers weren't even really a thing back then.
So it was everyone in NASA was in on it, and it was and no one's like, people hasn't come out, like how they've been able to keep that a secret for over half a century.
No, I don't think that everyone in NASA was in on it. I think a select few were in on it, and people actually truly believed that they were up in space. But I think that they were just in a Hollywood set somewhere. What's that?
Just orbited the moon. They didn't actually land on it, and all of that was fake.
Or the people that they sent up weren't Neil Armstrong and all those guys. Or they were, but they went up, and then they had other people in the spacesuits doing a moonwalk, and they just went up for the press of it, and then they said they landed on the moon, but in reality they were just filming in a movie set somewhere, broadcasting to the world that way. That's what I think, dude. I just don't see. I feel like we didn't have the technology back then.
You have any other major conspiracies you believe in?
Oh, you just
What
wait.
about 9/11? Are you a 9/11 conspiracist?
Just wait, Stein. We'll get into that later. I've got a lot of conspiracies.
You've been watching too much Alex Jones.
I've been watching too much Alex Jones lately.
But,
Ever since that Joe Rogan interview, I'm a fan.
As much as Alex Jones gets crap for all the hot takes that he has when he says them, everything becomes true. Like, you play, not everything, but a lot of the stuff he says actually becomes true at a later date. And then they play the clips back and went, holy crap, this dude was right 6 months ago, a year ago. He literally told us about this and everyone thought he was crazy. So Stein, people might think I'm crazy, but I might be right.
Apparently,
and he admits that too. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, apparently he was right about Epstein. I saw that clip from Rogan.
Yeah, I watched that whole podcast, and he'll tell you, like, 98% of the stuff I'm saying is true. I read thousands of articles a day, and hundreds of thousands of pages a day, and I do have that 2% where I'm just spouting off bullshit, but 98% of what I'm saying is true, and it's hard to just remember everything off the top of his head is what he said, and
yeah, maybe. Connor, what's like the conspiracy theory that you think is actually true, like that you're most confident is not a conspiracy and it's actually true?
The only one, I mean, I don't dive too much into those, but the one that I have read a little bit about, which sounds insane, is the Pizzagate one. It all relates back to Epstein, which we know is a thing, but just how far they actually went, and it says they were doing satanic rituals and all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it's hard to believe that would be true, but I mean, you never know. It's just these people never cease to surprise me.
Wait,
so that's the really the only one I've ever looked into hard. But
can you
I don't dive too deep into them.
What's pizza have to do with it? Was it talking about like the pizza parlor?
I mean, I explain a little. I mean, I don't know too much. I'm not an expert on Pizzagate, but so they would meet in this parlor in DC. Supposedly, it was a back room. And they had ties with the owner of the pizza parlor, and they would have these meetings, and then they would talk about all this crazy stuff. I mean, then they would have this these satanic rituals down at Epstein's Island. There's like a weird it's like a temple looking thing on his island that they're saying that they did some of that stuff at. I mean, and then you see some of these people that come out. They're mostly right side. Social media people that come out and like put these facts out, and a lot of it makes sense, but it's so crazy that this would never have been discovered yet, and people would actually do this stuff, But who knows how evil these people are,
Right.
Is Tom Hanks a pedophile? Why did he move?
Yes, he moved to Greece where it was illegal to be a pedophile, pretty much, to have sex with younger age people. Stein. Yes.
I actually do think Tom Hanks is a pedophile. And my parents on Christmas last year, I wanted to go to see like another movie, and they made me go see the movie where Mr. Rogers, and I fucking hated the movie. And they all loved it. He didn't do it. And I'm just like, see, he was a fucking pedophile the whole time. He was perfect for that role. Cosby.
See, it's so disappointing if he is, because he made one of my favorite movies. Actually, my favorite movie, which is Forrest Gump. It's a classic. He was Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
So that would be pretty disappointing.
Before he got into pedophilia, so he was pure back then. So I agree. That's my favorite movie of all time as well.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. So what do you think about the rules of engagement? I read Lone Survivor. Marcus Luttrell always shits on the liberals for the bullshit rules of engagement. I think it's hilarious. What are your thoughts on that? Did you experience any like dicey situations where you're like, someone's running away, whatever, you can't fire at them? What are your thoughts on that?
We were rolling through a city at night, and I was on the turret. Obviously I'm the most exposed out of the group, right? So I'm up there, and we get a shot from an AK somewhere, like some guy probably over the wall, like barely, not even looking, just firing, or just firing in the air. We had no idea, but it was something pretty close. And we can't engage. I mean, obviously in that situation we couldn't anyways, because you have to clearly identify the threat, and that because you can't just start spraying bullets indiscriminately into a town. But you feel very restricted over there, and these policies are written by people who have never been on the ground over there. Obviously, they don't know anything about the military. They don't know anything. So they write these policies and these rules of engagement that we have to abide by, and it definitely limits guys that are in some really hairy combat situations. So yeah, it's, you have to clearly identify. He has to be shooting. I think you have to officially, the rule is he has to be shooting at you before you can shoot back, even if he has a weapon. Stuff like that. Back in the day, like 2005, 2006, they were smoking dudes that had a cell phone. But nowadays, it's a lot different. So and a lot of stuff started to change like back like 2010 and on. I feel like.
So that was before you were in the military. But you think it was guys were taking advantage of the rules of engagement and being overly aggressive, and so that's why they made them so strict. Well, now it's as Marcus Luttrell talks about, it's like that's cost my friends' lives because the rules are so strict now. Maybe they've overstepped, it sounds like. So, but maybe before then it was like people were way too lax and some bad shit was happening because they weren't.
I was going to say that in Lone Survivor, obviously Marcus Luttrell kind of alludes to the fact that essentially all of his friends died over there because of the rules of engagement they had to follow.
Right. I mean, and those rules are put in place. I don't know if it's because we took advantage of them or what it was, but they came into place because it's so hard. This war is so hard. This type of war is not conventional. We don't know who the enemy is all the time. They don't have a uniform. They hide behind women and children.
Yep.
They strap bombs to kids and send them into buildings. Like they do crazy shit. So there's nothing it's hard to identify them. And so you have to put these rules in place where you're not just going around killing civilians, but at the same time, like, if the dude's on a cell phone near the side of the road, like, and he's got a shovel in the other hand, he's probably doing something wrong. You know what I mean? So it's just hard. I don't think we fully figured out how to fight that war yet. I think obviously we're getting there, but it's tough. And it's just, those rules of engagement are in place because of the type of war we're in. And it's, not the conventional kind.
Yeah. I love to see that Trump pardoned that guy that shot the bomb maker in the back that was trying to get away in the motorcycle.
Yeah.
I think he shot one of his guys, or I think two. I don't remember exactly the circumstance, but I love that. I think Trump's pardoned a few guys now.
Yeah, he's always going to side with us and give us the benefit of the doubt.
I was just going to say one of the generals was mad at Trump, that was the report at least, because Trump was undermining the military code by pardoning these guys. But I think he agreed that kind of the rules of engagement were kind of bullshit.
I wanted to bring up the thing that a lot of people get upset about, because when Trump said he's only pardoned like 20 something people, and he said Obama pardoned like thousands of people. And I don't know how true that is. I looked it up, and it said that Obama only pardoned 212 people, but they were complaining that Trump was abusing his power, when in reality he's only pardoned like 20 something people. And even if Obama only pardoned 200 people, well, that was over his 8-year term, and Trump's already been through 4 years. He's only pardoned 25 people. I think people forget that Obama probably abused that power a whole lot more than Trump has.
I mean, there's no limit. Who cares? You should be able to pardon as many people as you want. Is there a limit on how many pardons you can have?
No, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy.
Oh, I agree with that. I don't even think that. I think you should be able to pardon whoever you want. It's one of the perks.
I agree.
Well, yeah, I mean, if somebody needs to be pardoned, it shouldn't be a limit on it.
Yeah, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy of the left saying how he's abusing his power, pardoning these people, when they never said anything about when Obama pardoned his 200 people that he pardoned. So there's a bunch of hypocrisy there as far as the news outlets go.
That's just them. That's their blind hatred for Donald Trump coming out. It's just anything he does. It's like you said earlier, they're going to take the opposing side. It's like arguing with a child, is how I compare like having a discussion with a liberal. Like it's ridiculous. They don't have a stance. They just will take the other side of whatever you said. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and with no fact at all.
And then if you ask them, what would it take for me to convince you to vote for Donald Trump? And they will say literally nothing. There's nothing that you could say that would make me vote for Donald Trump.
Which means they don't read.
Hey, Solomon doesn't read either, so don't worry. He listens to audiobooks.
Audiobook.
Oh yeah, yeah. At least you got that. Yeah, I do big audio.
Yes, easier to listen than it. hold up a book and just like, yeah,
Exactly.
I'm all about keeping the frictionless. What was I going to say? Pick distracted me. I always talk about my audiobooks.
I love your audio.
I was going to tell. I remember before right when they started barking. I remember I was going to tell you the story real quick. So about the pardons and how Trump's gotten a lot better, or how he's a lot better with seeing our side. And my dad was actually over there and had an aide, like his kind of helper, I guess. And this guy was an infantry officer. On a previous deployment, he was in a village and they came up on a house and he could hear something inside, like a kid screaming inside. So he goes in the house and there's a dude, like I think he was a police chief or something in the city, was raping this little boy. That's just it's so common over there. It's Afghanistan specifically is very common, like pedophilia. It's a weird culture.
So what did he do?
And he went in there and killed this guy, beat him to death, and I think he had a Kevlar or something, and beat his head until he was dead. And I think he got court-martialed by the military for doing that, for saving this kid's life. Pretty much, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
That was, I can't remember. That was probably before the Trump presidency. So then, my dad actually grabbed him, heard his story, and then was like, "Hey, you're coming with me," because the guy was out of a job. They were going to kick him out of the military with a dishonorable discharge for being a hero. Pretty much, it's just crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, you hear a lot of those stories.
Yeah.
When it comes to rules of engagement and how they just don't give us give the guys out there the benefit of the doubt.
No, and like you said, they're familiar with our rules of engagement. I remember, Marcus Troll talking about this, and he's like, they laugh at it and they take advantage of it with the hide behind the women and children. They're just going to use every advantage they can.
Yeah, I made some good, some friends with these guys. I'd sit up in the mountains and drink chai with them and shoot the shit. And yeah, I mean, there's some really good people over there, and it's unfortunate they're mixed in with a bunch of radical Islamists that want to do harm to anybody that doesn't agree with them. So that's why it's hard. You can't just carpet bomb the whole country, the whole region. You have to go in there and no one has yet come up with a plan yet. So what do y'all think about this whole thing with, the CEFC, Hunter Biden?
Here's
how can we?
Yeah, here's
you think they're going to prove? You think
there's evidence now with the Bobulinski interview. And he's come out, he's given all his texts, all his emails, all correspondence with all the Bidens. There's clear evidence now that they were profiting, taking payments from China, essentially, just for being Bidens. Well, what I'm honestly concerned about is I think a bigger threat to a Biden presidency is actually a Kamala presidency. She's like one of the most left-leaning senators of all time, I feel like. Biden wins. What's going to happen is it's going to come out, all this stuff is going to come out, and he'll have to be impeached, and then Kamala will actually be the president, which I think is absolute worst-case scenario.
Definitely.
I don't actually believe that Biden's going to win, but I'm saying if he does win, I really think that, because the FBI is currently investigating the whole Biden family for this matter and their dealings. My guess is that the results of their investigation won't come out until well after the election, obviously, because we've only got 2 more days until election time. So It won't come out until after the election. If Biden wins, my guess is that he'll get impeached for his China dealings, and then Kamala would be president. This is one of those crazy Alex Jones theories, but when we replay this in about 2 months' time, and I'm right, well, the clip's going to go viral.
By that, Biden would have to win for that to be the case.
Right. So that's what I was saying. I don't actually think Biden is going to win.
Not going viral. It's not going to happen.
I know. If Biden wins, which I don't think he will, I think there's probably, an 80% chance that Trump is going to win. I don't know. I just pulled that number out of the air, but I honestly...
91%, according to primarymodel.com. And I saw DC Drano, Roger Hanley. I don't know if you guys probably follow him. I know Pick does. He predicted 2016, right? And obviously he's super biased, just like us. But he got 2016 right. So he claims he does all his own research, and he sees Trump winning in somewhat of a landslide, it looks like. He says it. The more I research and don't just go with what's out there and look deeper into it, I'm feeling more and more confident.
Yeah, I'll say that a lot of the polls.
You could feel the energy.
Yeah,
feel the out there.
definitely. A lot of the polls right now
Yeah.
say that Biden has a lead, but I think that they are counting Democratic votes for Biden solely. So they're I guess a lot of the polls are based on who has voted already, and they're just assuming that they voted for Biden. Because I know for like in Pennsylvania, for example, they pretty much say that Biden's going to win that state. Well, there's actually more Democratic voters there than Republican. So back in 2016, it was the same thing. So obviously, you had Democrats who were actually voting for Trump. And I think that they're just assuming that these Democrats are voting for Biden, kind of like they assumed back in 2016 that they were voting for Hillary, when in fact, people were voting for Trump. So, and I think he's going to have an even bigger turnout. And I think he's flipped more people from the left over to vote for him.
Yeah, I mean, I feel really good about where we are right now. You know, like the only thing I worry about is I don't know what these people are capable of. You know, if he doesn't win, then I won't believe it. Like I remember earlier in the year they were getting on to Trump because he was saying he wouldn't accept the results of the election. I was like, that's crazy. You know, like that's just how it works. You know, if you lose, you move on. But with all this stuff that's happened this year and what I'm seeing, the behavior of the left and how radical and progressive they become and continue to be. I mean, it's just I would not put anything past them. And it's to see all this really high energy for Trump out there, and then to see him lose it just wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah, like you said, I've never seen this much enthusiasm around a presidential candidate. Even when Obama was 2000, when was his first run? 2008. There's a lot of hype around him, but I still don't even think. I think that there's more hype around Trump right now. I just see so many videos of just all these Trump parades, and I know that it's a small number of people in comparison to the number of people vote. But I honestly believe that a lot of people are still scared to put their Trump signs out in their yards for the fear of people, you know, either labeling them as a racist or, you know, anything really.
Yeah, that was me up until just a few months ago, man. I've just seen how bad it's gotten, and I'm like, you know, I got to say something. You know, I think my first political post was on social media was the one that you commented on, John, where I, you know, the coyote running across the border with the little kid on his back. I mean, just retweeting some of these morons. You know, it's insane to me that they would actually. If you know anything about immigration policy, that is a common term. You know,
yeah,
very
absolutely.
common term. Just the fact that they would tweet that out for the whole world to see, and they have thousands of followers. It just blows my mind.
And then delete it because they realized how big of an idiot they were later.
Some of them did, yeah.
I think I saw the tweet, yeah. But how can a coyote transport kids over?
The ignorance is unbelievable.
I mean, there was a whole page of blue Twitter check marks saying the same shit.
Yeah,
a whole page of them.
And these are our influencers, dude. These are people that influence.
I know
the young people.
Connor, you know what I say about liberalism.
What's that?
Liberalism is a mental disorder, and I encourage everyone to seek help. I don't want there to be a stigma about it. You know, the left likes to talk about the mental health. I think a huge mental health issue we have right now plaguing America is full-blown modern-day liberalism. So I speak out against that.
Yeah, Trump derangement syndrome.
Exactly, Trump derangement syndrome. TDS is very, very serious disease.
Oh yeah, it's real. It's real. It's never been more real in 2020.
It's affected more people than the China virus, Stein, which you have right now.
I do have the China virus, and I have more energy in my pinky than Joe Biden has in his whole fucking body, even with the virus.
Just can't taste food. That's all. You're good.
Yeah. So what do you guys think is going to happen?
I definitely think that we will not. Or Fox might report a true winner on Tuesday. But CNN, MSNBC, any other major, CBS, they will not report a true winner as of Tuesday. I think that they will drag it out as long as possible, saying that there's a chance with the mail-in ballots that the...
And then that, like, it's like, oh, yeah, ballots just trickled in.
Yep, yeah. So we'll see. I think I agree with you. I don't think that we'll have a true winner as of Tuesday night, unless it is a landslide. Unless he carries, Florida. If he flips Virginia, he gets Pennsylvania, Michigan, all these kind of battleground states right now. If he is a clear, front runner there, I think that we can just go ahead and call it then and say that he won.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to take a little while though. I think there's definitely a possibility they'll drag it out for a week, and then when he does win, they're going to drag that out until the inauguration, just trying to, do what they can to reverse the results. They'll never stop. And one of the things I always say about progressives is there is some space for some a little bit of liberalism in politics, to an extent. But with these progressives, they're never satisfied. They're going to keep going, and they're going to limit what you can say, and they'll come up with new tactics to try to impeach the president, and it's crazy. They never stop. So I can see them definitely. Right. So I can see them definitely pulling some shit.
Yeah. So we're all three predicting a Trump victory. I think that is a pretty bold but accurate prediction there. So did you guys see when Tucker got a bunch of shit for pronouncing Kamala's name wrong? And then most recently, she said her own name. She pronounced it Kamala in the actual video. This is recent, dude. She literally just pronounced her own name as Kamala. When Tucker says it as Kamala, he's he hates women.
They're racist.
Right. And they label him as all these crazy, ridiculous things when she can't even pronounce her own name correctly.
I have my own pronunciation.
I know you do. I think your pronunciation is more correct.
Kamala.
Let me hear it.
Kamala.
I like that one the best.
Yeah, I think that needs to go viral, Pick. I appreciate you coming on and talking with us. I learned a lot.
Yeah, man. Happy to do it. I was telling John, like I've been wanting to get on here and do some kind of podcast. I just bought this microphone and everything, so this is good practice.
All right. Connor, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. Appreciate your service. Enjoyed it, guys. Until next time, hope everyone has a safe, great week. And get out there and vote for Donald J. Trump if you haven't already. MAGA 2020.
I love it. Couldn't have said it better myself.
There you go. Thanks, guys.
Have a good one.